maybe as an introduction, you can present yourself, say to people what you do, and why you do it. Maybe that could be great.
Sure. Well, my name is Arnold Lescano, and my main focus is to help people to release the effects of trauma within their body specifically so that they can regain the authentic, real, and raw, let's say, life force within that allows them to move into the world and move into relationships in a calm, confident, and life enhancing way, so that they feel calm, but then they also can give of themselves in love and in freedom. And my main focus and tool to use it to do this is bioenergetics. And that is a somatic approach created by Dr. Alexander Lowen that really supports people not only in their physical health, but also in their emotional, psychological health, and in their relationships. And it's been a powerful thing in my own life and then also in my clients.
And in mine, actually, because I've been using it for years to heal childhood sexual trauma, and it was
Nice.
absolutely amazing. And I remember always watching your videos and doing the exercises, moving through the fear, moving through the shame, moving through the grief, all this stuff. And I always give bioenergetics to my client as well because I've noticed it gives great results, really. It allows you to express a lot of stuff, suppress stuff. So it's very nice. Okay. And
Yeah, it's not just
yeah,
about exercise, right? And it's not and it's not a
yeah,
quick
exactly.
fix, and it's not fitness. And like you said, you get the opportunity to go deep. That's what I
Mm,
love the most about it. You can
yeah,
go deeply into your pain,
yeah,
into your truth, but also into your own power. And
yes,
you do that through the body, and it's so powerful. I love it.
yeah. And what I noticed, which is super interesting, is that when you're in the midst of your pain, of your deepest pain, and you're going through it, you can feel there's a power arising in your body. And actually doing the thing is putting you in the power, but you're not avoiding the pain. Just facing it fully gives you the power. And that's super interesting. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
maybe you can say how did you come to to start bioenergetics? How did you discover it?
Yeah, for me, it was mostly the fact that I came to a point in my life where reading more about self improvement or personal development and gaining more skills and changing my mindset and all of that just wasn't enough. And really what I started noticing is that there was emotional patterns that I was doing and that I just couldn't shake off. No matter how much I was reading, no matter how many skills I was acquiring, it was still there. And for me it was really anxiety. For me it was just I was just constantly in anxiety and I couldn't think my way out of it, you know? So I came to discover it about 14 years ago through a YouTube video, and I decided to try it because I was like, "Whoa, this is interesting. Let's see what it's about." Because I was studying psychology, specifically social psychology, and I never learned anything about the somatic approach, right? The body mind approach. And if I learned anything about it, it was just like very quick, very little. And this gave me an opportunity to go deeper within myself and try the exercises. And it was in trying the exercises that I noticed the deep shift within me. And I think the biggest one that I can recall was the fact that I no longer was constantly looking outward for validation from others. Before bioenergetics, I was constantly thinking about what other people were thinking about me
Mm,
while I was like
yes.
in in relationship, right, in
Yeah.
conversation with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like,
Same.
what are they thinking? What are they feeling? And I was kind
Yeah.
of just anxious, right, nervous,
Yeah.
anxious, didn't know what to do, and I was constantly trying to shift myself
Mm,
as I was like judging myself
mm, yeah.
constantly through relationships. And then after bioenergetics, it kind of happened naturally where I was just like, whoa, I felt much more grounded, much more self-contained, and
Mm,
like I was at home in my body, but also just looking out at the world and just being myself. And that shift was like, whoa, very,
yeah.
very powerful.
I can relate a lot. Like I was exactly the same. And yeah, when you tap into the body, it makes things very different. And it's something I tell my clients usually when they are stuck. It's because they are they are far from their body. They're not feeling in their body. They're not doing anything with this body. And so you can think about the problem over and over again for years if you want, but if you're not going into the actual feeling, in the actual pain, then you cannot move forward. And that's why sometimes the only thing you need to do is to go from the head to the body. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a little scary at first, right? So
yeah, it is.
it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a bam go into it, right? A lot of
Mm,
times it's better to be patient
mm,
and go slow into it. You
yes,
know, start really experiencing it and feeling it, because sometimes there's a big depth
mm,
of sadness in there, or anger, or
yes,
shame. You know, and it's just like
yes,
you don't want to just jump into it. You want to
yeah,
slowly start peeling the layers of the onion.
yeah,
Let's say.
exactly. That's true. Yeah, sometimes it can feel impressive, the amount of emotion that you can have inside. Um,
Hmm.
and so I have a question that I wrote, which is how is bioenergetics affecting our emotional triggers? And I think it's an interesting topic. How sometimes when you're in a certain situation and boom, you get a trigger and you're entering a very difficult state. What have you noticed by using bioenergetics with this?
Yeah, well, triggers aren't just a mental thing, right? They are also a bodily thing. It's an emotional thing. You feel something. So I would say the first thing is to notice in your body where that trigger happens. You know, that's the first thing. So one of the things that we do is first become aware of the tightness in our body. An example would be, let's say a boss comes and talks to you, and you immediately start, let's say, shallow breathing, and you feel like tightness down here, right? The first thing is to become aware of that, because many times we don't know. We just know that we're triggered, and then whatever happens, we cower or whatever, whatever the response is, it's okay. But the first thing is to become aware of where in the body is there the tightness, and then start to release it in order for it to not be a trap anymore. You know, a lot of times we have this, what Alexander Long calls body armor. We have this armoring, and it's all defense mechanisms that never had the opportunity to actually be released. So first would be awareness of it, and then the second part would be the importance of releasing it and letting it go through its cycle. Because most of the stuff that we deal with now that are triggering is from stuff in the past. So not just talking about the stuff in the past, but really reliving the experience and letting it run its cycle.
Yes.
Because our
Yeah.
body and our mind have an awesome way that is just a natural way of releasing and healing from the traumatic effects.
Mm,
And a lot of it you can see in babies. You know, they start crying when they don't feel good, or they
mm,
start shaking. You know, my baby, sometimes when he cries, he just
mm,
shakes,
mm,
or releasing sound, right? You know,
mm,
so we have to complete the cycle of that
mm.
to release it, and that's what
Yes.
bioenergetics helps us to do.
Yes. Yes. That's well explained, and that's my experience too. And maybe for the people who are watching, what you can do is that you can put yourself in the trigger before doing the bioenergetics exercise. You bring your mind, your attention to the trigger. What do you feel in your body? Where is it in your body? And then from that place, when you're connected to the trigger, you do the exercise and you process it. And that way you're putting your mind into it really, and that works very well.
So yeah, you plan out the work. That's
Yeah,
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like you feel
Going
before.
into it
Yeah,
with an awareness.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And how is bioenergetics? How is it affecting your relationships? What did you notice in the relationship with people?
Yeah, for me, I was in the oral character structure mostly. There's different
Okay.
character structures. We don't need to get into it too much, but basically, for me, I was noticing, even before I knew about bioenergetics, I knew that I was, let's say, emotionally hungry. I
Mm,
was always wanting connection. I
mm,
always wanted people to like me, to accept
mm,
me.
mm,
And at the same time, though, I had this fear of abandonment. So I was reaching out, but slightly reaching out, also a little nervous. And that nervousness is kind of what led me to study so much about, like I said before, social psychology and communication skills and all the stuff that I was learning was ultimately, now I look back at it, see that it was all for hoping that people would not leave me, hoping that people would not dislike me. So that ended up being for me just a way of coping with my inner hurt and my inner fear. And what I ended up doing was people pleasing behaviors, giving myself completely over in relationships, and never putting myself number one. And it was exhausting. Like I said before, I was just constantly like analyzing, thinking, how is this person thinking of me? How is he feeling of me? And then I would just give in my relationships, in my career, everywhere I went. I just felt like I had to give, and it was not a functional good way to live. And after doing bioenergetics, I noticed the places in my body that I had longing, that I had some emptiness and some deep sadness that I had to release and relieve. And by doing that, I was able to be much more grounded in relationships and much more, like I said before, self-contained. It was just like, okay, I am enough. I can stand on my own. I'm not constantly looking for external validation from
mm,
you. I'm already enough and
mm,
I'm already good. And if you come into my life and you love me, great, and if not, I'm okay.
mm.
And that
Yeah,
was, yeah, that was a big shift.
yeah.
Huge shift for me.
So you went from being insecure to being a secure person who has boundaries and
Uh-huh.
who knows he is enough. And that is very liberating when you come to that place where I am enough as I am. It's amazing. Everything feels safe and the relationships are more easygoing. It's easy to interact and you feel confident, you feel relaxed, and yeah, that changes everything for sure. Amazing.
Yeah, and it wasn't just learning about how to set boundaries better, right? Or it wasn't just someone or some reading or some book telling me love myself more.
Mm,
The thing that I love about bioenergetics was that it was something internal. It was
yeah.
a shift from the inside out,
Mm,
and it wasn't so much something that I had to think about doing. It just
yeah.
I started becoming the
Mm,
person that could do this more naturally.
yeah. It's like you're not adding on your experience. You're not adding a new identity, or you're not trying to tell yourself positive things. You just allow your body to shift into a new reality. And that's
Yeah,
amazing. And
before bioenergetics, I felt like I was being very fake. I was
yeah,
very robotic. I was constantly
yeah.
thinking, "Oh, what would be the good thing to say here? What would
Mm,
how would
mm,
how would
mm,
somebody react if I do this?"
mm,
And I felt like I couldn't ever really fully be myself. I
mm,
was always very, very cautious about how I was interacting with others.
mm. Mm. Yeah, same for me. For me, bioenergetics was a lot of releasing fear also around people, and I used to have this blocked throat with a small voice, and I was scared to say what I wanted to say. And the fear exercise actually from YouTube channel has helped a lot. I remember I did it many times, and I could feel the fear getting released from my whole body, and then a sense of calm right after. And then in the with people, it was more I was feeling more safe. So yeah, it's clearly impacts a lot our relationships. And also talking about relationship, how is the relationship with your body now? What's changed? How do you perceive your body? What kind of what changed? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, I notice the feet hitting the ground. Like they
Mm,
say grounded. It's just like I feel it. I feel it like
yeah.
I'm planted,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm,
So that's one big thing. And another thing is that I can experience sometimes when there's a shift in my body, like they call awareness, right? It's just like, oh, I notice a tightness happening in my body. And it's just like, oh, okay. I know how to in the moment be calm, breathe through it and just kind of let it pass. Or if it's like an intense thing, later on throughout the day, I also know how to release it. If in the moment I'm not able to like calm myself down or express it, because if we're in a work meeting or
Yeah.
something, it's just like there's appropriate times to do this work and appropriate
Yeah.
times not to. I can do it afterwards and release it and let it be and let it go.
Mm. I remember actually doing bioenergetics in a student building and wondering if when I'm yelling it's not too much and people will hear me. And that was
Uh-huh.
funny. Um,
Yeah, one important thing is to realize that your voice matters, right? And actually, bioenergetics allows that to happen because you're allowed to use your voice. You're allowed to use sound, right? It's movement, it's breath, but it's also the ability to use sound and release sound, so that not only it opens up your, all the inner muscles, but it also allows you to feel much more confident in
mm,
using your voice.
mm. Sometimes a good yelling is all that you need,
Oh yeah,
actually.
it's
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah. 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 Oh yeah.
Okay. And yeah, actually, with numbness, because sometimes you can feel very numb with the body will disconnected. So what would you say to people who have trouble feeling and they do the bioenergetic and they don't really feel anything? It's like all numb and blocked.
Yeah, when it comes to numbness, that's one of those things where we have to go in patiently again, right? We got to go in very, very softly and slowly into it. Because if you're numb, what that is a protection mechanism. It's not that you can't feel, or the emotions aren't present. It's that your body and your mind, your whole being, decided at some point that it was unsafe to feel that feeling, and therefore it tightened it up. The way we stop our ability to feel is by tightening our breath. If you don't want to feel something, you just breathe shallow, you don't breathe as heavy, and then parts of your muscular system tighten up also, in order for you to not feel those feelings anymore. And when it becomes chronic, you don't even notice that you're tight. Some people walk around like this, and they don't notice.
Yeah,
And
they
you'd be
think
like,
it's
"Wow, you
life.
got really tight shoulders." I'll be like, "I don't, nah, not really,"
Yeah.
But then, but then when they
Yeah.
start doing the work, they're like, "Oh, okay, slowly and softly do you work on the
Mm.
on the fascia, right? Because it's in the muscular system, but it's also in the nervous system. So you don't want to go bam, and like we said before, you don't want to just blow it up. You want to slowly start releasing it.
Mm. Yeah. Very slow, and also I would say relaxation helps a lot, and
Hmm.
safety, like all this grounding
Yeah.
stuff when you're numb, it really helps because the body is in fight or flight. It's too much, you cannot handle it. So you need to ground and reduce the intensity of your internally. So if
Hmm.
you use grounding, you just reduce, and then it's easier to feel. Yeah.
Yeah, something that we do is we go into an exercise that might be a little intense, but then we
Oh.
pair it with a more calming,
Mm.
grounding type of exercise. So whatever happened there, you let it go. Whatever happened there, it's just like, okay, that was the work, but there's also the work of relaxation, like you said, or giving yourself some time for integration. That's also very, very important.
Mm. Yes. Awesome. And often after trauma, we feel tension in our body.
Cord.
What is tension from the point of bioenergetics, and how do you use tension?
Yeah, tension in the body is really mostly an original survival mechanism that our body decided to use. If something was too emotionally charged, or a traumatic experience, maybe our body and our mind and our being
Mm.
decided that it was better to not feel something.
Mm.
And it could be in many different ways, like anger. Let's say you weren't allowed to be angry. Your parents yelled at you when you were angry. Then you do something in your body to stop yourself from feeling angry. You still feel it, right? But then you have to stop yourself from expressing it. So normally what you do is you tighten your jaw, you raise
Mm.
your shoulders, you
Mm.
clench your back muscles,
Mm.
and you stop breathing so fully, right?
Mm.
Or if you have another traumatic experience, maybe it was better for your body and mind to to use the survival mechanism of disassociation, right?
mm,
So your body and your mind just dissociate. Your head went somewhere else.
mm,
And when you do that, especially in a traumatic moment, maybe you kind of forget about what happened, but your body gets used to that type of mode of being, and all of these things affect us in our adult life too. Those tensions live in the body, right? In
mm,
muscle memory, and we were talking about triggers before. Sometimes we have that trigger and we have that mode of being. It's our MO, right? Modus operandi. So maybe I get close in
mm,
relationships and it becomes a little emotional and intimate, and my my neurotic holding patterns, what they do to me is they make me dissociate. So that's what I do. I just get out of my body and go somewhere else because that's my survival mechanism. That's what's comfortable or where I'm at in my life. So by going through the process of
mm,
feeling deeper into the body and
mm,
releasing the tensions that are associated with that, then you're able to hold yourself more in an intimate relationship, in an
mm,
emotional relationship, without doing that dissociation. Or like the other one,
mm,
you're able to feel the anger and express it in a calm, cool way instead of being fearful of anger. You know, like, oh
mm,
man, if I get angry, I'm gonna go mad, or I'm gonna go
mm,
into rage and do something crazy. You know, I'm
mm,
not allowed to feel angry. You have that inner
mm,
stuff that's
mm.
stopping you, but by releasing it and going through the process, you're able to do it in a way that's congruent and also graceful in the moment.
Mm. Yeah, and this safe place that you're using for yourself by doing these exercises, they show you that anger is okay and that you can get mad and allow yourself to destroy everything and it's still okay. It's not that dangerous, you know? And
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
yeah,
you do it in a safe, contained place,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
Your own work.
yeah,
And then when you're in relationship, in real life, in the flow of things, you're able to express anger and
mm,
not go into rage because now you really know the difference,
yeah.
you know?
Mm. Awesome. And what I tell my clients is that usually where is the tension, there's the pain. It's like the tension is here, but it's masking the pain. And when you relax that tension, suddenly a whole emotional world open up, and you can feel the underlying pain. And usually, if you just spot the tension in your body, this is where the suppressed feelings are. And it's just as simple as this. You just pay attention to the tension, and there you go. This is where you need to work. It's as easy as this.
Yeah, it's awareness of the tension in the body, and then as you're releasing it, also what comes up, right? Is it sadness, anger? Is it joy? You know, it's a whole spectrum of the emotions. But tension in the body, what it does is if you stop yourself from feeling anger or sadness, you also are in this position where you can't feel joy and peace and all the positive emotions in the same degree either. So really it's just releasing all of these so that you can have the full spectrum of emotions and be at peace
Mm.
and in the flow with them.
And it's very interesting how we suppress these positive feelings also, as you said, and how it's blocking us. For example, with childhood sexual trauma, you tend to suppress joy and pleasure because the experience is like pleasurable but violent at the same time, and so you completely suppress your ability to enjoy things because for you enjoying is violence. And so when you do these body exercises, you realize you can enjoy and that's okay. And that's also okay to feel good things. It's not dangerous neither. Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, and what is the main block that you see in your clients, in people? Something that is common in people?
I think for the most people, I've noticed issues around the chest area, around this area. And I think most of us, for various reasons, we live our life with a broken heart. You know, we've been hurt, and we've never been taught how to grieve and how to release from the hurt. And the hurt can come very, very early on. I know in some of the bioenergetic books, Alexander Lowen talks about your first love object being your mom's tit, right? It's your nourishment. You love your mom's boob, right? You're experiencing that and loving it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on between mom and baby. It's fascinating breastfeeding, like what really goes on in that connection. But sometimes if a parent has to go to, let's say, work now, like 3 months later, you have this whole connection, and then all of a sudden, boom, stop. You kind of lost that first love object, and that creates a heartbreak. And then, of course, when you become older, an older child, sometimes your parents may be very strict with you, or maybe you had a traumatic experience at school, stuff like that. And then you live with this heartbreak. And what I've noticed is that some people they have like a closed off chest, you know? It's like that. And that's a survival mechanism, right? And then there's also the puffed up chest, which is also a survival mechanism, right? And what it does is that it doesn't allow you to really feel and give love in an open way. There's a blockage there, and that's something that I've noticed in a lot of my clients, that it's just like, okay, let's soften up the heart, let's soften up this area so that you
Mm,
can give and feel love in a in
mm,
a in a peaceful way.
sounds good. And it's very common in our society actually that people have this facade, this coldness with their heart, and we are all living in our ego and our masks,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And we can't express it, right?
yeah,
Like you were a boy. I was a
mm,
boy. At some point, we were also told you can't cry.
yeah,
That's a big
that's
one too.
crazy. Yeah,
And that is one of the biggest, most amazing ways that our
mm,
body has in order to release the sadness
yes,
of a broken heart.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Especially for men, actually, it's so common that men thinks if I cry, I'm not a man anymore. And but
Hmm.
I usually tell them, but it's the reverse. If you cry, this is the power, this is the strength, because you are um, owning your vulnerability, and that's what's healing. It's not avoiding.
Yeah. A
So
lot of this work is, like you said, entering into the vulnerability or entering into surrender
mm,
and letting go.
yeah,
Letting go. Allow yourself to feel.
mm,
Allow yourself to release.
mm,
Um,
which is super
and sometimes the
scary.
ego does have that.
Mm,
The ego still holds on to that.
mm,
Like, I can't cry.
mm,
you know, or it's just so
yeah,
that's why it starts off very light, and then but
mm,
then, like you said, once you allow yourself to feel, once you let go, once you
mm,
surrender a little bit and enter into that vulnerability, then the floodgates
mm,
open up,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
then that's where the real feeling happens, where the real
Mm,
experience of release
mm.
happens.
And that's where the body is very intelligent and it has its own power. Is that even if you think I can't cry, and but you do the exercise, your body will cry for you. It will do it before you're even ready. So it will start to come up and you're
Hmm.
not even ready for it. And you discover that it's just healing on its own. It has its own intelligence. So that breaks completely the mind thinking into controlling your healing. Like, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to cry right after. No. You just do the exercise and let yourself being surprised. Sometimes it just can happen like this. So yeah.
Yeah, and one of the coaching things is just to support people in allowing themselves to do it, and then also just reminding them to breathe into their belly, you know? Breathe deeply into your belly, and that it's okay. Whatever you're feeling, it's okay. Keep breathing, keep letting it out. And like you said as well, it's got to be in a safe space. As long as it's in a safe space, then yeah, you can really let it out and have some great emotional transformation.
Yes. I wanted to talk about physiology because you mentioned people sometimes they're like this or they're like that, and it's so interesting to me how our trauma shapes the way we're carrying our body. And
Mm.
some of my clients, for example, they will have their shoulders down, and they usually say, "Oh, life is so heavy and life is a burden." It's like they're almost you can see the burden on their shoulders.
Yeah,
And
holding it
yeah,
in.
exactly.
Uh,
And some people have too much pride and so like they're chin up and they're like, I'm the best, and they it's about learning to relax and not be in pride and see your true
mhm,
authenticity. And it's very interesting how our body is shaped by our emotional experience. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. What do they call it? Emotion is energy in motion, right?
Mm,
That's what they say, and it gets stuck in the body. It is.
mm,
It's amazing. Yeah.
mm, mm,
The mapping out of like what you said. It's just that's perfect. Yeah. It's like you're holding on to so much.
mm,
Got so much of a burden,
mm,
and then the opposite, like the puffed up chest.
mm,
When it's too far, you can
exactly.
notice it.
Yeah, it's too far. Yeah.
And it's just like that person may need to soften, like you said. Yeah, they need to soften and allow. It's just like you don't have to always have it in control. You don't always have to be this certain way. And maybe we can see that person and say, wow, that person's got it all together. You know, that person is responsible. They're on time. They're working really hard. They're doing all this stuff. But internally, the feeling there is a fear in there too. There's that's what's causing them to overly be in
Mm,
this character posture.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, amazing. And yeah, and about spirituality, how did bioenergetics affect you on a spiritual level? What did you discover? Or yeah.
Yeah, in a similar way, working on the body allowed me to love in a deeper way.
Mm,
A lot of spirituality talks about becoming loving, right? And it's just like, hey, a big part of it is to love thyself, love God, and love neighbor. And the thing is that if you don't have an embodied spirituality, you can hear this and believe it and say, yeah, this is true. And I am a loving person. But if your body and your mind are stuck in a pattern of fear, let's say, or anxiety, it's almost impossible to truly trust God or to really love yourself, love God, and love neighbor. So it's a part of embodied spirituality that there is a healing that needs to happen. And I'm a Christian, so I believe that salvation isn't just a spiritual thing, but it's also an embodied thing. It's a healing thing. We're called to spread the gospel, but also heal the sick and also um, get people away from the demonic, the adversary. Get away from the one that wants to separate us and divide us.
mm, I see. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, because you can approach this from a very conceptual mind, but if you actually embrace this bioenergetics, you can understand deeper what it means to love uh, and to maybe be connected on a deeper level with others and and also something I've noticed that you feel more alive by doing this, right? So there's
Yeah.
this aliveness that awakens in the body, and it's wonderful. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think in my past I would have said that I was very loving, but like I mentioned before,
mm,
I was loving because of a
mm,
neediness.
right,
So I wasn't really
yeah,
loving.
yeah,
I was more trying to
craving,
fill a need.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So now you discover what is unconditional love, what is loving without needing something from the other person, and that's very
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
And sometimes in loving someone, it's not just tolerance or it's not just letting them be or giving yourself fully to them. Sometimes it's giving them a hard word, giving them a correction, telling them, "Hey, I want our relationship to be better or you're doing this thing wrong and I want us to grow together and I need you to shape up or we can't continue working together or whatever it is. But that's also loving because you're willing the good of the other. You want them to be better. You want your relationship to be better. And that's loving, even though it might come through a hard word or even a little bit of anger sometimes.
And is bioenergetics helping you release limiting beliefs. I think that's an interesting topic as well. How does it
Yeah, I would
changes your
say,
beliefs, you know?
yeah. I would say, yeah, limiting beliefs, right? Is it just a mental thing or is it an embodied thing?
Ah, yeah,
It's
good
interesting
question.
because
Yeah,
everything seems like it's all connected,
it's
right?
connected
In
for
in the
sure. Yeah,
in the reality of things, it's just
yeah,
like, oh man.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have the
So I would
belief,
say,
and
yeah, it
then you have
does.
the body reaction, you have the body, the emotional component of the belief, you could say.
Yeah, how have you experienced it?
Uh, for me, I noticed that releasing deep-seated emotions will also release the idea that was glued to them in a way. So when you
Mm.
release the deep sadness, you realize, oh, my sadness is valid. Or you realize, oh, I am
Mm.
safe. Or you realize, oh, it was never about the other person, it was about me. Like the issue was in me, I was just projecting on the other person. So all these kind of shifts can happen. And it's very interesting how just the emotional work can completely influence the way you perceive things then.
Mm. Yeah, in rational emotive behavioral therapy, they talk about being aware of how you're feeling about a certain emotion. So if you're sad about being sad, then you can go more into a depression, right? So then instead of just working on the sadness itself, you work on your experience or your belief about having that emotion. So first it would be, all right, let's first be okay with the fact that we're sad. It's okay. It's okay. You're feeling sadness. It's an emotion. It's fine, you know? And then you work, and then once that happens, then you can work on the actual emotion. But by working on the body, you're already acknowledging the fact that it's okay and it's fine, and this is a deep thing within myself, and I'm allowed to express it and feel it, embrace it, and and then yeah, I would say from experience, it does change your mind and limiting beliefs in many different ways. I didn't think about it enough, but there's many ways. If I think about it more, I'll be like, whoa, yeah,
Mm,
it does.
yeah, awesome. And also, yeah, I had the question also on the chakras because I don't know if you know about it, but the chakras in the body, the seven chakras, and it's very interesting
Mm-hmm.
how you can make the connection between bioenergetics and the chakras. So, for example, when you will feel unsafe, if you open the pelvic floor, you will feel more security, and the pelvic floor is the area of the first chakra. And if you feel a lack of
Mm.
confidence, you will have a block in the solar plexus. It will be stiff in the solar plexus, or you will have a lot of tension. And that's where the
Mm-hmm.
third chakra is, which is the chakra of confidence. And it's how it's all related somehow, and it's very interesting. So maybe can you share on how different areas of the body can have different results? Maybe if you noticed things like this.
Yeah, man, life is so amazing.
Mm,
Like the way we're created and designed, our body and our mind is fascinating. And I think the chakras came about from somebody meditating and noticing certain areas of their body. And those certain areas of the body are parts of the body that have the most neurological nodes. There's the most firing happen, like in your brain. Over here, you have a lot of stuff going on, right? A lot of nervous system stuff here. Solar plexus also, and then your gut, right? Your stomach. They call it the second brain, right? Your pelvis in this area, yeah. So I don't know too much about the chakras. I did study them at some point, and I don't know. They can get pretty deep in different ways. So just speaking about the body itself, I understand that they do have some type of validity in like the places of the body. It's just like, wow, physiologically, those are parts that are really neurological nodes, right? There's a lot of firing going on in those areas. And working on bioenergetics, I would say very similar to what you just said. If those certain areas are blocked or tight, they do they do have some type of result in your life, and by releasing them, it releases some of the results that you're getting right now. You know, if you can't speak up or if you don't feel confident or whatever in speaking, by releasing the stuff, you will inevitably feel much more capable of speaking your truth and
Yeah,
owning it. You know.
yeah, yeah, makes sense. Okay, nice, interesting. And when you do the exercises, the bioenergetics, where do you put your attention and how does that matter? Because in your videos you say often pay attention to your feet or whatever. And how does that, what's up with that?
Yeah, it depends on the exercises themselves, but for the most part, you want to focus on being grounded. You know, like you said, feel on your feet, make sure that you're feeling grounded, and then also in your breath. Make sure that you're breathing through the exercises no matter what's going on. Sometimes vibrations will happen naturally, right? And then what you want to do is keep breathing, keep noticing what's coming up, like the feelings that are coming up, notice them, and then just notice also like what your body is doing on its own. So it is just a big moment of inner awareness more
Yeah,
than anything,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's not like a physical exercise program. Like you're not
yeah,
like
yeah,
lifting
exactly.
weights, you know? It's
Mm,
like it's a really going in and being like, okay,
mm.
what's going on
Yeah,
internally?
exactly. Yeah. So you don't do it in a, you don't do it to stretch. You do it to feel your stuff, to face your stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
and yeah, if you pay full attention to your body while doing the exercises and you remain really conscious and yeah, you're in your body, it's going better usually. You have better results because you're helping your body, you're helping your, how do you say? You're healing better because you have more awareness and you're shining this awareness constantly in your body. So yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely, absolutely.
And there is like meditation,
Mm,
this reality that sometimes you may go somewhere else, right?
mm.
And then just gently coming back.
Yeah,
You know, that's what it is. It's like
yeah,
gently coming back. Come
yeah,
back to center. Come back to feeling.
yeah,
Feel your body. Feel your breath.
yeah,
It's like, oh, I tighten my breath. I'm not breathing.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right, let me allow breath to happen. You know, yeah.
yeah. Awesome. What is one or a few foundational things that people need to understand to have a tangible result from bioenergetics? What's the core principles that really matter?
Yeah, I think the fact that the body holds a lot of unprocessed emotion and trauma, right? In the muscular system and in the nervous system, and this is just a natural thing that happens through experiences that we've had, and our body chooses these survival patterns. You were saying fight or flight before, right? That's just something that your body just naturally does. It affects your mind, it affects your hormones, it's your whole system, right? And just knowing that that's a normal thing. It's natural that your body did what it did, and it was helpful for the moment, but now it's no longer useful, generally speaking. You know, it's just like, okay, if I'm stuck in this pattern that worked when I was a kid, now as an adult, I'm still noticing this pattern, then that should be given the opportunity to go through its cycle of release so that it's no longer stuck within you. I would say that's the deepest type of first awareness that you got to be like, okay, this is natural, it's normal, it's the way we were wired, the body mind connection. There is muscle memory and there's healing in this. And there's a lot of science behind it now. When Alexander Lowen was doing it, he was one of the pioneers of the body mind connection and somatic healing. But now there's just so many more books, so many more resources, so many more scanned images and all this type of stuff that show the depth of connection between the body and the mind.
It's crazy how he could discover this stuff and create such a powerful framework. Uh, it's genius.
Yeah, I mean, he gave himself fully to it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, he
Uh,
dedicated his life to it. Yeah,
hmm
somehow. Uh, how do you feel after a bioenergetic session?
Yeah, after a bioenergetic session, I feel more of me.
Mm,
You know, I feel more connected to me,
mm,
whatever that means. You know,
mm,
if it's my sadness, if it's my pain, if it's my
mm,
hurt, if it's my joy,
mm,
if it's just working on a certain part of the body.
mm,
You know, at the end of it, I feel more embodied, obviously,
mm,
but really just very connected.
mm,
Like I just feel much more at home in my body. I feel like more me.
mm.
If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. And can you have instant effects or is it a gradual process?
Oh, it's both.
Both, yeah, I
Both,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get instant effects from doing the exercises, but there's some things that you, like we said before, you don't want to rush into it. You don't want to jump into it, so you want it to be gradual. You want to open it up and go through it softly and patiently and slowly and then let it exponentially grow from there. So it's both. You will feel different and there is going to be effects that are happening, but there's more coming if you allow yourself to go into more expressive exercises, deeper exercises, maybe doing them for longer as your body allows and your mind allows, right? You don't want to go too close to your comfort zone and not pass it, but you also don't want to go too far and overdo it. So just a little bit past your comfort zone is obviously the sweet spot that you're looking for.
Yeah, sounds good. Um, and okay, and something I discovered somehow is that if I would do the bioenergetic exercise right after meditating, it will have a much deeper effect because I will put my whole mind and body into the problem, basically, into the issue. And then right after the meditation, I do the exercise, and I could feel like I was releasing much more, and I was connecting to my feelings much easier because like it's like almost I was preparing my body for it. So what's your point of view on that? Maybe our state can influence the exercise itself, you know?
I think the way you went about it is probably the best way, right? You go into it with an awareness, you come into it, I would say with curiosity would be good too, you know? Like, hey, I'm just gonna go in this. I know kind of what I'm working on, but I also want to be curious to see what comes up, what my body reveals, what happens in my emotions, what happens in my mind. And then, of course, like we were mentioning before, how we feel afterwards. It's like what changed, and then go throughout the next day and and just notice yourself in relationships, in your feeling. It's like whoa, what transitions have happened? So you can go into it just like all right, I'm gonna do this exercise, you know, willy nilly, I'm gonna do it, and you still will get the benefits of it because you are entering in. You are entering in, but going into it first with the intention is probably much more powerful and will produce a better healing experience.
Sounds good. Um, would you say that concentration is important when doing bioenergetics to be really focused on the practice?
That's yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the main things.
Hmm. Okay.
Doing it in a focused way while also allowing, right?
Hmm.
So that's the hard part. It's
Yeah.
just like there is the focus, but there's also the softness,
Yeah.
you know. And it's just like okay, my body does this thing. I'm just gonna allow it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
focus interiorly on what's that showing me,
Hmm. Yeah.
more than trying to do it right, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
there's specifically some character structures that have to really focus on going slow and doing the experience and going through it and feeling more than being taught how to do a certain movement
Hmm.
because they have that limiting belief that I got to do everything right.
Hmm.
You know, I
Yeah.
got to do it perfect. There's that
Yeah.
like that perfectionism mindset, and
Hmm.
that's not really what this is about.
Yeah. I agree. I think that it's good if it's messy, you know? Like allow yourself to make it messy, like to feel even a bit weird because like you're too much or you're, or inadequate. But that's good. Like you're
Yeah.
stepping out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some exercises that are weird,
Yeah, they are weird.
strange, like moving
Absolutely.
faces. Yeah,
I
right.
was thinking about the
Yeah.
throat with the gagging.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
first time
there's a
you
lot
see
of
this,
things
you're,
that
you're like, what?
mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
but then you see that it's
There's
actually
some
relieving.
strange
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the way your body is wired,
Mm,
and it's just like if you go through it, it's just like, oh, okay, I experienced it and I feel different now,
mm,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you see that it's actually useful, then you will still do it. You will continue. You will see how good it is.
Hmm.
So, um, so I have one question left, and actually I will add one more question. What I don't know if you've tried yoga in your life or you know a bit about yoga, but
Hmm.
would you say that bioenergetics is more efficient than yoga for healing? And why? Do you have a stand on this?
Yeah, so I don't know too much about yoga, right? But what I would say is that I have a Hindu friend and I love him a lot, and he's striving to be an awesome Hindu, and he practices meditation and practices yoga. For us here in the West, we're given yoga almost as a physical practice, and some people call it like a healing practice, right? From my understanding, it does have components of that, but it's also a spiritual practice, right? So what I like about bioenergetics itself is that it's strictly a body mind approach. There's no spirituality piece, so that it can be open to everyone and anyone. That's number one where I see the difference between bioenergetics and yoga. The other thing is that bioenergetics is specifically for healing, and it's a therapy. Whereas yoga, I'm not too sure about. I think maybe a lot of the healing aspects and the awesome physical and emotional stuff that happens is just because you're doing awesome body movements. You're doing awesome body movements, but I don't know if that's really the core basis of it.
Mm. Yeah, I think like bioenergetics has been designed as a therapy, which is the difference.
Hmm.
Of course, yoga can have great effects, but it's more accurate in that sense. And what I like about bioenergetics is that it's very practical. It's down to earth. It's like
Hmm.
yeah, you know what you're doing. You're really grounded, and yeah, it's interesting. For some people, it's the best thing to do. Yeah, if you're not
Yeah,
too
I don't
much
know
into
if yoga is
spirituality.
really designed or used to
Yeah,
heal stored trauma.
yeah,
I don't know. I
I don't
don't
know.
know about that
Yeah, I don't know
too
neither.
much.
Yeah, but I've tried both actually. I've been doing a lot of yoga for some time when healing, and I think both are great and they provide different results. But what I really like about bioenergetics is that there is really these big releases that you don't necessarily have with yoga. It's like something can happen and you're like releasing, and it's very intense. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, it's pinpointed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pinpointed. Yeah, it feels
Hmm.
like this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And last question was, yeah. So we do bioenergetics. We feel a lot of stuff. The question is, when does it stop? Because you can be in this endless feeling forever, like feel the sadness forever. Is there an end to this? Um, and what I can add is that some clients sometimes they come and they say, "Oh, I've been crying for years and I don't want to keep crying. It didn't work." And I tell them, "Yes, but you've been crying because you're crying and holding on to the wound at the same time, which is not healing. You're just reinforcing the victim mindset, reinforcing the narrative." So I tell them, now we're gonna cry, but we're also gonna let go at the same time. And so, yeah, the question is
Mm.
basically, where does it end? How do you know you're good with it and you don't need to do anymore? And is there like a potential of being trapped in the feeling is healing all the time?
Mm. Yeah. So the feeling that we go through, especially in the expressive exercises, is designed for release. for healing and release, and it does feel great. Now, to think that you're going to do it one time and and be like, wow, I completely restored my experience of sadness is just, um, it's not the best way to think about it. So there is a certain amount of times that you should do these type of exercises. 3 to 5 times is great. You go through the experience and then you notice what has changed. I don't think that in doing it too much that there's necessarily an issue, you know. Um, but I think the bigger issue is in doing it too little, where you just experienced it, but you're too scared to go past the point of the dissolving of the ego, let's say, or like the letting go, where it's just like, okay, I'll just really go in. Instead of doing it like an exercise, it's just like, okay, I'm going to really go in and release, and like what you said, to let go, to let go of the wound, to let go of that thing. It's got to come to that level, and when that happens, then the change is full, is complete. But sometimes a certain person may have a lot of wounds, and maybe sometimes we touch it on it and it's just like, that was so awesome, but then as they continue life, they're just like, wow, there's more there, so you can keep going in,
Yeah,
you know.
layers over layers. Yeah. Sometimes you discover layers that you didn't even think they were there, you know. It's like surprise.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and
So it's not just a thing of feeling, right? It's not
yeah,
just like, hey, I'm coming in here and just trying to have emotions. it's
yeah,
it's deeper than that.
yeah, yeah. And do you personally still do bioenergetics regularly?
I would say, yeah,
Yeah,
I do. I don't have a daily practice that I do, but when I notice that I need it or that something is going on, then I'll do like some grounding exercises. Sometimes the bow, I'll do some shaking, and there are times in your life that things are going on and there are still challenges, right? There are still stressors. So I've had experiences where I was starting to feel a lot of sadness and I noticed it. And because of bioenergetics, I knew how to go in and release it. Now, sometimes, still in the ego, right? I wouldn't do it for a few days. I knew I needed it,
yeah,
I knew I needed it. I was like, oh
yeah,
man, oh, yeah, I'll do it.
yeah,
And then, but then when I did it, I was like, why didn't I
yeah.
just release
That's
this
true. Yes,
days
same.
ago? Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe what would you say to people who are curious about this but never tried it? What would you tell them?
I would say try it out. Come in. Come in and try it out for yourself. You can learn about a lot of things, you can learn about it and read about it, but I think by actually going in and entering into the body and the mind through bioenergetics, you'll notice the change in your muscular system, in your nervous system, and then in the way you show up in the world, and the way you relate. And once you experience that, then you'll really want to go in deep. But I would say just try it. Just try something. Try it a little bit. Get a taste of it.
Yeah, it's actually when you put that first step in, it's like a new world is opening to you. You discover so many things about your body and your mind, and it's uh, it's a great journey. But I think that the body is an essential component of healing. Like you need that body practice. For some people, it would be yoga or other stuff, but I always tell people you have to have this bodily practice because this is key. You cannot just do talk therapy for all your life, you know. You cannot just talk about your
Hmm.
problems. You have to face the emotional pain at some point. And bioenergetics is the ideal tool for this. So yeah,
Yeah, they actually say that sometimes in talking about your problem so much and you're kind of reliving it.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you're kind of reliving it and
mm,
feeling it, like actually making it almost go deeper,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're going into it without any real healing that goes on.
mm,
No, I think just want to let people know that in my life I notice a lot of tension in people. Whenever I go, let's say, into town or into the city, I notice a lot of sadness, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and I'm giving myself fully into this to share this stuff, to guide people through it because I just feel the sadness and the pain in my own heart when I see somebody um, online and like shaking their legs, like they're not grounded and they're really nervous. I see it, I know it, and I and I can't go up to them and just be like, hey, all right, let's do some grounding exercises.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So so yeah, it pains me when people don't go through this, and it just like brings so much joy and so much
That's
um,
awesome, yeah.
gratitude in my heart when people go through it and then I hear the transformation and I hear the stories. It's just like, yes!
Yeah, it's awesome. And for people watching, so you have a YouTube channel called Healing House, where you post
Hmm.
exercises and also guidance on bioenergetics, and you have your own
Hmm.
school group where people can go through a whole bioenergetic process of months. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I'll put the link of your work in the description, and uh,
Thank you.
and we're good. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you and I
You're
appreciate the
welcome.
conversation.